The following episode of the SpongePod is brought to you by the Chum Bucket. Now, let me tell you about an amazing opportunity. Now, would you like to get paid while pretending to like a restaurant that only serves chum?
I definitely would.
Well, let me tell you about a job posted from Karen of the Chum Bucket, who posted a job basically where you would pretend to like their food to give their owner, Plankton, a false sense of superiority.
Wow. That sounds like a very convoluted plan to trick their owner.
It is. It really is. But for what it seems like they will pay pretty much what you would get from a part-time job. And all you would need to do is show up to the Chum Bucket, pretend to like their food, and
Wait. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure the Chum Bucket wouldn't want us to use their ad money to promote something like this.
I mean, why wouldn't they?
Well, because we're like telling people that the food's not good, that we have to like pay people to like the food.
That's true. This is kind of admitting that the food is pretty bad. I'm just doing whatever, I get an invoice from Karen at the Chum Bucket. She wants us to hawk some of their job postings instead of selling some food. She thinks it's more productive. In some ways, this is probably more productive than what they already work with, though, if you think about it. I mean, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of people are in the Chum Bucket.
That's true. This is like this is like the Chum Bucket being very honest about like what they are.
For sure. And our current government says we're going to create some jobs. So this is, a way that I think Karen is making a few jobs. All I'm saying is go to the Chum Bucket for all your chumming needs. And if you need a part-time job, tell them that we sent you. You might be able to get some good pay and some good benefits. I mean, I would assume that they have pretty good benefits in Bikini Bottom. Wouldn't you, Tim?
Yeah, I think the health plan is probably top notch.
It's got to be top notch if you're living underwater. Make sure you go to the Chum Bucket for all your chumming needs. And welcome to the SpongePod, the unofficial podcast of SpongeBob SquarePants, where we overanalyze every single episode and get down to the bikini bottom of your fan theories. I'm your host and in-house SpongeBob expert, Eric. Are you ready, Tim?
Aye, Captain.
I'm sorry. Your mic is kind of bummer. It's got that bummer filter on. Can you take the bummer filter off?
Let me take the bummer filter off real quick.
Yeah, there's a weird. Okay, so can you hear me, Tim?
Yeah. No, I got you.
Are you ready? Are you ready, Tim?
Aye, Captain.
Oh, good. Okay, I think you turned that weird filter off. Welcome to the SpongePod. Very happy that you could make it with us. This is our 6th episode. 6 episodes. Have you ever done something more than like 3 or 4 times before you're just bored and you just give up? I mean, 6 times. It's like
now I'm trying to think of what they are.
Yeah, we're committed. It's crazy. Anyway, it is February the 3rd, 2018. We're having a great 2018, a great 2018, so to speak. How you doing, Tim? You doing all right?
Doing good. Just excited to keep moving through these episodes. I was going to say I probably took like 4 guitar lessons before I quit playing guitar. And so this is longer than my guitar playing.
Oh, wow. You are more of an expert at SpongeBob than you are at guitar playing, which if I know Tim Grimes, I do not describe him as a guitar player.
Well, there you go.
I guess now I can describe him as the co-host, the first mate of the SpongePod. So opening up, I do kind of want to just start with this idea. So I am moving soon. We live currently north of Indianapolis, and we're trying to find a good house to rent, because we do not have the money to buy, and we're trying to find a place with a good backyard. But anyway, I had to go to the BMV. It was very unfortunate. My birthday was a month ago, and while at the BMV, I did have an experience where, I was looking around. There were 4 agents. They were all helping their individual person, the person in front of them. But there was one agent in particular that did a really, she was just very fast. She was really good at her job, and I was thinking like, man, I really hope that I line up with Stacy. Her name was Stacy, and not calling her out or anything. But anyway, so Stacy and I, we hook up. We didn't hook up, we hooked up. She gave me my number. Anyway, we I go to her station. Sorry, this derailed a little bit. Let me put it back on the rails. No, so I am connected with Stacy in a pure BMV way, and we work on my car registration, which was due for some reason. We have to do this every year, and so we start doing the registration thing, and I get out very quickly. I'm very happy. Normally when you go to the BMV, you just kind of plan your whole day around it, and you just may God have mercy on your soul. Hopefully you get home before the apocalypse, because normally the BMV is a really annoying place to go. However, she got me out super fast, and I was super happy about the customer service. I just kind of want to endorse the BMV in a certain way and say, hey, if you need to go get your registration done, maybe go get it done. It's not going to hurt you too much. But I will say this, this is, a good thing about the BMV and then a bad thing about the BMV. In a weird twist of fate, Stacy sent my registration to the wrong address. Okay.
Oh, no.
And so where I'm going at with this, in this, long train of just subjective, subconscious, right? Where I'm going at with this is obviously customer service. It's key that you present yourself well, but it's also key that you have a good service. And today we are talking about the episode Plankton ! Basically where we introduce Plankton to the overall SpongeBob universe, and here we see some good tendencies from an entrepreneur in Plankton, but we obviously see some rough ones as well, don't we, Tim?
Yeah, it's not typically good to brainwash people into liking your product.
Yeah, it's not, and like we did with the ad. I mean, it's kind of a scary place to be. But with that being said, I do want to mention that we are on Twitter, we're on Facebook, the SpongePod for both of those, and make sure you email us questions. We'd love to respond to some fan mail. 6 episodes in, we don't have a whole lot rolling through the email spectrum, but if you send us a few emails about any questions you may have, you might hear your name on the SpongePod. Wouldn't that be fun? But
oh yes,
yeah,
it would be fun.
We're enthusiastic about our plugs. Yes, but anyway, let's jump right in to the Plankton episode in the first act. I also want to say this real quick before we jump into the first act. We are not going to have a guest today. We tried having a guest on the first few SpongePods. That is really fun. But when we both have full-time jobs and lives outside of the SpongePod, trying to organize with someone to bring a continual guest every week to you guys is a lot of fun, I will say, but it is very busy as well. So we're probably not going to do a guest every week like we've been doing, but we are going to try to bring in guests every now and then. Today, we are still going to have a segment. We're going to start analyzing some of the different phrases that Bikini Bottomites use. I don't have a name for the segment yet, and I don't know if we will ever have a name for it, but we're just going to analyze 2 words and try to figure out what they mean, so that as you hear those words being told, in the SpongeBob universe, you will know what they mean, or at least you will have a profound experience that we will provide for you of what that word means. Doesn't that sound good, Tim? I mean, we both took, a good class in high school. I'm sure that helps us understand words, etymology. We both took etymology, so I'm sure we can analyze these words.
Yeah, break down the Greek and the Arabic roots probably of the words.
We are going to go hard, I'll tell you that. So basically in the first act, so again, this is the episode Plankton. So the first act, SpongeBob and Squidward are hard at work while talking in French in what I thought was a mistaken audio setting on my computer. SpongeBob gives a small soliloquy about how beautiful the Krabby Patty is, but whoa, the patty begins to walk away and both the Sponge and the Squid are confused. While the two have no clue what they're missing, Eugene does not skip a beat. He's not confused at all. Eugene lifts the patty to see that Plankton is taking it away, trying to trying to steal the Krabby Patty recipe. Now, this is basically the first time we ever see Plankton. I will note, and this is kind of a weird part about Plankton is how small he is. One of my first thought is, why doesn't Plankton just stay completely hidden from everyone? Because obviously he's hidden that entire time. Like, if he really needs if I was a part of the Ocean's 11 crew and I had a Plankton at my disposal where I can use someone who is immeasurably small, an Ant-Man type, size, like obviously that's very immeasurable as a villain or as a, heist person,
a thief,
a stealer.
A Steeler.
A Pittsburgh Steeler,
Pittsburgh Steeler.
You might get fined for only having 10 people. Oh, wait, but that 11th person is down there and he's running the football into the end zone. Yeah.
Perfect.
But anyway, I mean, why doesn't Plankton just stay hidden from everyone? That doesn't make any sense, does it?
Not really. I mean, if he could, we see in this scene where it's like he immediately starts moving the Krabby Patty.
Yeah.
If he could have just waited a minute, he probably could have actually stolen it.
Yeah, or at least he could get a lackey to come in and join him. Like, hey Bob, I'm gonna give you $30 if you go in and buy a Krabby Patty. Then Bob just takes Bob the fish. We all know Bob. Bob the fish takes his scrumptious Krabby Patty to his table, and Plankton just walks it out the door from that way. He does it in the most dramatic way possible. And on top of that, why does Eugene need to know who Plankton is? It just kind of doesn't make any sense to me. If you're that small and you're that hard to be able to see, I would just continually use that. I mean, if it's your prerogative to steal, recipes from your rivals, I probably wouldn't ever, make myself, available. I mean, I feel like he could be a McDonald's style, chain, big chain without anyone ever realizing that he's like a microscope.
Yeah, he's big, so tall or so small.
Yeah. Anyway, and then my second take is, what do you think is the actual recipe of a Krabby Patty? Because it shows an actual patty later on, like a picture type. It's not a cartoon. They show an actual version of it, and it doesn't appear to have anything substantial. I mean, what do you think is so special about the Krabby Patty, Tim?
Yeah, it just looks like it's got to be. I think it's got to be in the patty itself. It's not, I don't think it's anything on top, because it's just lettuce, mustard, pickle, it's all the regular stuff. So I think there's something in the actual patty that makes it so delicious.
Yeah. And it's gotta be a weird sensation, because if you think about it, the bread would be really soggy.
Right,
the cheese would probably preserve fine. The lettuce would probably preserve fine. But you got to wonder who is supplying them with the beef, for the patty, or if they're using some kale type resource for the beef, some bean burger type resource for the beef.
Yeah, it's actually a veggie burger of some sort.
Yeah. Or if they have a crab who is really, crabs can be above ground. Maybe they have a crab that is, because, oh man, it is the Krusty Krab. So what if the crab knows some crabs from the above ground and they're able to supply them with hamburgers that they just steal from the nearest In-N-Out burger, he's got a dealer basically, where he gets it on the upside and then ships it down. There needs to be an episode about this, about where they process the beef, and where does Mr. Krabs, what kind of deal did he have to do with the crab mafia to try to, import some beef in?
Yeah,
I bet it's.
I imagine it would be difficult.
That episode could be, directed by Martin Scorsese. Even it could be a pretty crazy episode. But yeah, Tim, what did you take away from this first section?
I found there was an interesting fan theory that I found. It's from Arby's manager 189574993.
Okay.
And he or she on MySpace says, SpongeBob is clearly making fun of fancy chefs who use yucky ingredients that they pretend are good to impress people. Does the Krabby Patty recipe include having to put it into SpongeBob's body like shown for it to be good? Is SpongeBob's unsanitary method necessary for the Krabby Patty to be good? What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, we were trying to figure out what the actual recipe of the Krabby Patty was, and we kind of went off on a, Goodfellas style Scorsese rant. We never really did answer that question of what is the actual secret recipe of a Krabby Patty. I guess, I mean, in a theoretical sense, the individualistic process that makes the Krabby Patty special really could be its unsanitary method. I mean, I don't know if they have like a underwater, commission that makes sure that all the sanitary values of their food inspector are preserved. Yeah, food inspector. There is a food inspector episode. As we say that, I was thinking of the actual acronym that I can't place, but there is a food inspector episode later on. It's a pretty spooky one because I think the food inspector turns ill in that episode. A little spoiler alert. Spoiler. But no, what if the actual secret is the unsanitary method that they make the Krabby Patties? I mean, that would be kind of a gross, twist, an M. Night Shyamalan twist, if you will. But I don't know. Well, I mean, what do you think? What do you think is the recipe, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's tough because, like, on one hand, SpongeBob is the one that makes it, and it's kind of SpongeBob's unsanitariness that we're talking about. And obviously the Krabby Patty predates SpongeBob by like a bunch of years, but you would
assume.
Mm-hmm. But also like, you've got like hot dogs. Like no one actually knows what's in hot dogs, and people seem to love those. So I don't know.
What makes a hot dog magical? That's right. That's exactly the real philosophical question at the heart of this episode. Is while we totally know that the Krabby Patty is obviously worth stealing, what makes it so stealable? Because by all means, it's just like the hot dog. We understand that it tastes so scrumptious, but we just do not want to know the process that makes the hot dog, because that's pretty gross. That seems like it'd be on some sort of Netflix documentary. Maybe there will be a Netflix documentary about the process of the Krabby Patty.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if it would be a good process or a bad process, considering SpongeBob's lack of sanitary procedures. Anyway, so let's jump in to the second act. Upon closing up for the night, Plankton starts up a conversation with our favorite sponge. After relating to each other about their anatomy, Plankton gives SpongeBob a golden spatula as a gift. Plankton then takes absolutely no time to request a Krabby Patty from our hero SpongeBob. And Plankton basically gets rejected, but then promises to somehow forcibly make the sponge pass him a Krabby Patty with maniacal music and a harrowing laugh. That night, Plankton sneaks into our favorite SpongeBob's head and inserts a weird device that is used to control our favorite hero from the inside. So I think right off the bat, my first take is, what type of actual like United States laws is Plankton breaking here, or is this actually legal? I've been obsessed with Black Mirror lately. Black Mirror, for any of you who are fans or not fans, I guess that would make more sense, is a show about technology and its use and what we might be able to see from the future. Now, Black Mirror is not sponsoring the show. I do enjoy Black Mirror. If they do want to get in on advertising on the SpongePod, make sure to shoot us an email at thespongepod@gmail.com. However, I wouldn't put it past Black Mirror to do a type of episode here where, somebody is in somebody's head. They're controlling them from the inside. Would that be a legal thing to happen in 2018 or 2018, as we say?
That is obviously a really good question. You know, laws kind of have a tendency to not really like catch up with the technology that's associated with them for a number of years.
Or at least way too late, like fatally too late. Like Jurassic Park. Like Jurassic Park happened and everybody was like, why isn't there a law towards like bringing Tyrannosaurus Rexes to LA? And, you know, you would imagine that around the time of Jurassic Park 4 or 5, you know, which we never got, they probably had a law saying, hey, don't bring those T-Rexes to Disney World. We don't want the T-Rex to be our humans. But yeah, I mean, what law do you, neither of us are legal experts, I guess. So it'd be very difficult for us to, you know, use our basic non-knowledge of the law to understand but is there copyright or something, at least copyright or something being done here, do you think?
I do wonder, like, so, you know, there's like civil cases and there's criminal cases.
True.
And criminal cases have they're more stringent because they involve people going to prison. Yeah. So I think it may be possible for SpongeBob to win like some sort of maybe like libel case.
Interesting.
Because he's like tarnishing his SpongeBob's reputation and also the Krusty Krab's reputation. Yeah. But I don't think he could win like a criminal suit.
Well, and I'll say this, the SpongePod will always remain apolitical, right? We're not going to join a political alliance, or we're not going to ever make political ads towards the actual political situation going on. But I will say this, I mean, you know, a common complaint is that, you know, certain political parties are controlled by other, you know, non-American, you know, resources. I wonder if there is something like a collusion type situation that an individual can find themselves in. You know, I was influenced by this exact person, you know, in a way where my faculties were not being acknowledged at all. You know, I wonder if that is, and again, we're not legal experts. If you are a legal expert, we actually would really like an email from this. If you could shoot us an email at the SpongePod. Is it legal for Plankton to basically commandeer SpongeBob's brain? You know, basically force him to do whatever Plankton wants to do. It's a very weird, you know, ground that I'm sure, you know, technology hasn't caught up to us in a place. I'm sure if this was a technology, like, we would have a legal like ruling for it, but we actually don't at this current time, or maybe we do. Shoot us an email. Tim, what did you find?
Yeah, so I got another fan theory here. This is from Freedom Fighter 298859 on Facebook. He or she says, "Are the writers of SpongeBob warning us about big corporations who are trying to control our brains? Plankton, obviously, represents the big corporations, and SpongeBob represents us, the unsuspecting public. What do the writers of SpongeBob know that we don't know? This is why we must always have our tinfoil hats at the ready."
Oh, wow.
That's a big one. What do you think about that one, Eric?
Well, we are conspiracy theorists here at the SpongePod. You know, every episode, I don't know if you could hear it on the actual, you know, audio feed, but we are wearing our tinfoil hats. We want to make sure that, you know, Viacom, as they come after us for, you know, talking about their trademark product, that Viacom doesn't use, you know, this Google Hangout that we do this podcast on to completely influence us in our, you know, we are not here to give you more SpongeBob or to, you know, advertise for SpongeBob. We're here to analyze it. It is in the public and it deserves to be analyzed. And so we here at the SpongePod, we definitely, you know, have tinfoil hats that we wear on the reg. And we definitely, you know, subscribe to these type of conspiracy theories. However, I will say the one gaping hole in this theory is saying that the Chum Bucket or Plankton's, you know, restaurant is a big corporation, because at best, you know, if like, you know, the Chum Bucket was a pizza restaurant, you know, the Chum Bucket's like Chuck E. Cheese. I guess it's like a novelty type place. You go there if you want some chum.
Yeah, right.
It's not necessarily like the Pizza Hut or the Papa John's or the Domino's, whichever is your preference. You don't necessarily say, you want pizza tonight? Let's go to Chuck E. Cheese. You normally say, oh, my fifth grader is having a birthday party. Let's go to Chuck E. Cheese and watch animatronic, mouses sing to us.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, I guess for me, I don't necessarily think that Plankton's company represents like a Walmart of sorts, because you would obviously see more people in the chum bucket, and you would actually see, I think you would actually see a more practical, substance than chum being advertised as their main dish. I mean, what do you think, Tim?
That's interesting, because we do see it empty very often.
For sure.
But I think to like run a restaurant that empty, you have to have like a lot of money. So I'm kind of assuming, right, that Plankton has a lot of money. So maybe in that sense, he kind of represents a big corporation, like a corporation that's like a lot of money, even if it's not actually doing all that well, but it has a lot of money to do.
That actually seems more like realistic in different ways, like a company failing, that has like a sugar daddy of sorts, like an economic sugar daddy. Like maybe Plankton's in with some big sharks. I don't know.
Yeah,
they actually could be sharks too.
He's in with the crab meat mafia.
Oh my gosh. The SpongePod has gone full circle. The other two observations that I have is, what do you think these simple controls do? Because if you've watched this episode, or if you recognize this episode, essentially Plankton, and I'm talking about the controls that Plankton uses in SpongeBob's brain. Basically, he just plugs right into the brain. I'm not sure where exactly in the brain he plugged in, because I'm sure that when I think about plugging something into a brain, normally you want to be pretty precise. You don't just kind of throw it in. But you kind of wonder what those controls do, because if you remember correctly, the controls is just basically like two levers, and he kind of uses it at one point to control his legs, but then later, he obviously uses SpongeBob as a microphone, and then even and then he even like spins SpongeBob's head around completely, and then SpongeBob. The last thing that I thought was crazy is that SpongeBob walks through the Krusty Krab, and during that time of just basically what it would take to walk through, makes and assembles a perfectly looking Krabby Patty. It's just kind of like do the controls control his fingers? Like, what do you think, Tim?
You got to have a lot of articulation if you want to do that.
Yeah.
I wonder if, it's really hard. Obviously, the controls are really small because Plankton's really small. I wonder if like maybe those two big poles that he uses to like go left and right, like they have like buttons on them to like control like more like control the fingers or like control different other things. Maybe those things aren't actually
That'd be pretty
like
crazy.
Yeah, like they're actually more evolved than we can actually see in the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I could buy into that. The last observation before we hear from our awesome sponsors is, what do you think Plankton studied in school? Because obviously, he kind of mentions with my college education, and he breaks out a blueprint when he says that, with my college education. And a blueprint, you might think that Plankton is an architect. However, he's an entrepreneur with his own restaurant business. You might have thought, he kind of went into economics. However, the economics of stealing products is probably not great. So I just kind of wonder what you think he actually studied in school.
There is this part of me that thinks like maybe Plankton studied like political science, just because he's kind of like full of himself.
For sure.
He read like too much Machiavellian.
Oh yeah.
Government stuff, and now he's like so
he's
full
very
of himself.
Maniacal. He's very philosophically a bad character. He's at least using the systems of the world for his favor. Yeah.
Behavior.
No, I don't know. It's a very interesting, and also it would be really difficult. I feel like college was a very, physical, type thing for me. It took a physical toll on me. I was walking around campus all day with books, and studying all the time. I think that would be super difficult without like a Kindle-like device, for a miniature organism to, be able to read the books, be able to write the papers, type. I mean, man, to type a paper as Plankton, if he does not have dictation, like it would, he has to just hop from each letter to each letter, hoping that the weight of his non-existent, is enough to actually type and initiate the button. There's all kinds of weird stuff about him being a college grad. I mean, I'm not going to put it past him. I mean, more power to him. He has the freedom to do whatever he wants. I just think that, his physical situation, unless there is like a separate Plankton college, that could even be the case where Plankton, joined a college on his own. Anyway, that is it for the second act. We are now going to throw it to one of our trusty sponsors. All right, Tim. So if you were on a desert island and you can only bring one thing, you could bring coffee or something useful like a knife. What would you bring? Your one thing.
One thing. Oh, it's so tough. I mean, a knife has so many uses.
For sure.
I could also bring like a rope of some sort. That has a lot of uses.
Or you could bring coffee. Yeah.
Uh-huh. What would you bring? Why would I bring? Well, I think I'm probably going to go with the rope. I think that's probably my choice.
Well, let me just say, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. You should bring coffee because, I mean, how would you wake up if you don't have coffee?
Yeah. I mean, I guess probably just the sun, right? Because there's no shade and the sun would just...
Yeah, but I mean, we're so tired at all times. If you don't have coffee, how are you actually staying awake? Because I take naps all the time while the sun is out. I mean, I'm just a nap monster. But if the coffee is not there, I'm not there. If that makes sense. So I think it would make sense if you bring your coffee.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, the coffee would. I mean, I'm sure I could eat something like a banana or like a coconut. You could also eat
coffee. I've chewed coffee beans before, especially chocolate coffee beans.
I don't know. Maybe I'll consider it.
Okay, well, if this is the last chance you might ever have to get coffee, I might have the perfect place for you. It's called Last Chance Coffee. Now, I might want to mention that it's only found, near Las Vegas. But if you were to be in the area and want to take part in the enlightening smells of Last Chance Coffee, make sure you stop in to Last Chance Coffee.
What type of blends do they have at Last Chance?
They probably have all kinds of different blends. I mean, they probably have some, barnacle blends. They probably
maybe a kelp blend.
Oh yeah, kelp. They probably have some sea critter blends. Even though you probably don't want to drink, the blend of coffee that you are. I mean, I wouldn't want to eat, drink a 27-year-old Indian descent male, coffee.
Oh, I was gonna say if Patrick was rocking the starfish blend, that'd be kind of awkward.
That would be kind of strange. Anyway, go to Last Chance Coffee for all your coffee needs. All right, thank you for listening to those awesome ads from our sponsors. Make sure to check out their businesses. Make sure you tell them that the SpongePod sent you. They'll give you a good old discount. Just say Sponge Boys, SpongePod when you check out. It's either Sponge Boys or SpongePod. Either way, you'll be able to get your percentage off. Anyway, let's jump right into the third act. Sorry, this episode is going a bit long. We're having a lot of fun analyzing, but we're going to try to do our best to kind of sum this all up. Try to make sure this is comprehensive. Make sure to get back to us if you like the length of the SpongePod. Just let us know. Anyway, this third act, SpongeBob, now being controlled by Plankton, walks through the walls of not only his house but Squidward's before Plankton insults Squidward, and SpongeBob learns that Plankton is behind all of this. Plankton uses SpongeBob to steal the Krabby Patty and takes it to his lab. At the lab, Plankton demonstrates his powerful computer that can automatically find the ingredients to whatever they place in it. Right before placing the Krabby Patty in the computer, SpongeBob gives another beautiful soliloquy to the beauty that is of the Krabby Patty, and Plankton cannot give in and cannot, pass on how enticing it sounds. Plankton dives for the patty, actually bouncing off the patty and into his ingredient computer. SpongeBob and the patty walk off into the sunset, and Plankton is now stuck in the computer. Now, Tim, my first, thought right here is obviously way to go, SpongeBob. You won the day again. But my second thought is, do you think Plankton has a way out of the computer? Because normally when I want to, log out or whatever, I just log out, right? Hit Control Alt Delete. But if Karen isn't, if Karen's not doing any of that, how does Plankton get out of this computer?
That's a tough one. I'm trying to remember. How did they? This immediately makes me think of Tron. Like, how did they get out of the computer in Tron?
Or like Black Mirror. There's a lot of, this episode is just full of Black Mirror.
Exactly.
Maybe that's where Black Mirror writers got it, is they were like, I've been watching a lot of SpongeBob, and I've been listening to analysis of the SpongePod, and now I have some trippy narratives to tell. I mean, I don't think there is a way out of the computer. I think we kind of just assume that it's eternity. Maybe the computer finds a way to, 3D copy Plankton into a new vessel. That could be,
but then maybe, is he really Plankton because he's a clone?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to continually forever, whenever we see Plankton, we're going to continually question whether or not that's the real Plankton.
Because we've come up with our own fan theory.
Yeah, we are. Tim, what did you find on this episode?
So this was just kind of similar to what you were saying. Just something I was thinking about is how, Plankton's story here, to elevate SpongeBob to the echelons of classical literature. Plankton is a mad scientist. True. And like in a bunch of stories we see, he's undone by his own device, right? He creates this thing, and he's, it's Dr. Octopus being blown up by his own invention. It's Dr. Frankenstein getting mauled by his own monster, things like that. So it really puts, I feel like this story with Plankton really puts SpongeBob in the upper echelons of literature.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can definitely say Dr. Like you said Dr. Octopus, you say Dr. Plankton, you say Dr. Frankenstein. Frankenstein. That's how you say it now.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. No, you say Dr. Frankenstein. You didn't even hear me say, I mentioned Plankton in the middle there. You didn't even hear it, because it's just such normal conversation that we normally talk about Plankton in that regard. You're right, Tim.
I think fits right in.
Yeah, I think this definitely solidified him as just one of those all-time arc villains. Someone who we try to empathize with. He's very small. He's very tiny, and it's very difficult to live a big boy life when you're that small. However, he definitely went down the less virtuous route to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. His Zoom Machines is undoing.
Oh man, it's the tale of our time. Anyway, so my last take here is, how much do you think Plankton can actually eat? I mean, I really don't know the process. We should get Kimmy Hogan at some point to figure out what Plankton can actually eat and how they sustain themselves. But I mean, the Krabby Patty is massive. I mean, it is bigger than his house, you would presume, and he jumps right at it, hoping to eat it. There's kind of an element of why doesn't he just cut the Krabby Patty in half and throw that into the computer, and then he can take the other half and basically just hold on to food for what would assume to be thousands of years for him.
Oh, see, that's like a genius plan that Plankton didn't even think of.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
So maybe we've established that Plankton is like a sub genius. He's like he's very smart, but he's not quite as pragmatic as he needs to be.
Yeah, he's not great on the execution of the plans.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that sums up Plankton. We've overanalyzed the poop out of Plankton. Let us know if you have any questions. We're gonna jump right into our segment segment of the day. This is Sponge Words. Now, these are common words that you hear fish, the bikini bottomites in Bikini Bottom actually say. And we just want to take a moment to define it, to figure out what they actually mean by it. The first word that we are going to tackle is a word, barnacles. Now, obviously, I'm looking for the proper use of barnacles, but it seems to be like just a swear word. Now, most of our swear words don't actually mean anything. You can think of certain swear words, meaning poop. And, I guess the other ones I really don't know mean much. Do you think barnacle is just should we have like an an adult type warning on the SpongePod because we said barnacles? It's just like doing a 1 in or whatever it is. Like if you do a 1 in certain countries, that's actually flipping them off. Like you're not saying I'm number 1. Yeah. You're saying like, hey, you're not a good guy. Like I don't like you.
Right. It's kind of a cultural thing. That's a good question. Like if the SpongePod were played in the SpongeBob universe, then maybe we'd have to have an explicit warning on it. But since
I think it is. We're doing ads for Bikini Bottom, so they definitely are listening.
That's true. I don't know. So, we could consider the...
Well, and then the other element of this, the main character, SpongeBob, is the one who says barnacles. So, there's kind of an element of like, if I'm watching a TV show, reality TV show, if I'm watching some ESPN and they say a curse word, we have commissions and we have, structures in our society to warn, those children out there, hey, this episode of ESPN, they're going to say some naughty words. Make sure that you don't tune away. But SpongeBob seems to be like a representative of Bikini Bottom. For him to be so coarse with his language, it just seems like that might provide us with some sort of ethical, parameters. Like if it's good enough for SpongeBob to say, then why can't we say it?
Yeah. And on the other hand, like, barnacles are, if I believe correctly, they're like little things, I don't know, that get stuck to like the bottom of ships. Oh, and so, a lot of our curse words are like, maybe like taboo things that are like in usually the gross things universe. In general. So, yeah. And a barnacle is kind of, it's kind of gross. It's the underside slimy part of a ship. Okay. So I don't know. It's kind of in that same category. Yeah. Well, maybe it's the nice word though.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other word we want to kind of tackle today is tartar sauce. Now, if I think of tartar sauce, I think of, Long John Silver's going there and trying to do whatever you can to make that fish taste good. For me, it's a scrumptious type sauce that you could throw on a otherwise bland meat to make it, have a taste in general. But to them, if you think about it, tartar sauce is kind of like a chemical weapon. If you think about it, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, so if the fish are being caught by people and are being killed and then eaten, the live fish would obviously hate tartar sauce because it's the kind of, to your point, if they hate tartar sauce because it's like signifies their death kind of.
Yeah. Or at least like the post-mortem like way that the fish is processed. So all this to be said, if you have any fish around you, make sure you watch out what you're saying, man. I don't want us to be, offending anyone in our sphere of influence. I don't want us to, even rub off on the fish like, hey, we don't like you anymore, and you say tartar sauce just in casual conversation, it might be like saying, like a nuclear holocaust to us, or something that is otherwise scary to us,
cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Oh yeah. No, don't even say that one more time, or this podcast will receive an adult rating. Yeah.
I'll try to keep my mouth clean.
Anyway, that sums up those sponge words again: barnacles and tartar sauce. Make sure if you use the word barnacles, just make sure you're using it in the right cultural context. And if you're using the word tartar sauce, just make sure there aren't any fishies present, because we want to make sure that we're not offending the people around us. Anyway, that is it for us at the SpongePod. Again, sorry for going a little late, but we had a lot of fun. I think this was a good episode.
Yeah, this is a great episode.
Yeah, great. It's probably the best one yet, if I were to presume. Our associate producer is Orrin Hatch. Creative producer is Anthony Scaramucci. Our child care producer is Christina Crosley. And data research is done by Jeff Lake. Our office assistant is Zach Cooper. Our audio engineer is Jessica Brummett. Music by, we have a new outro now. We have the outro by Milky, Michael G, and the other songs are provided to us by DJ Eugene. Our cover art is done by the Milky himself, Michael G. Make sure you check him out. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the SpongePod, and email us some questions if you have any inquiries about SpongeBob. Make sure you let us know. That's thespongepod@gmail.com. It's been a great episode, Tim. Thanks for joining us.
Been always glad to be your first mate.
Oh yeah,
is what I should say.
And it's a lot
always
of fun.
Glad,
this has been so much fun. Tomorrow I'll think of some way to get back. After all, tomorrow is another day to watch SpongeBob.
Come on, SpongeBob.
Thank you.
I like that one.
Yeah,
I like that one. I think we might keep it.
We're getting better. That one was from Gone with the Wind, if any of you had noticed. We are just hacks. That's all we are. We're hacking our way through every episode of SpongePod. Thank you.
Yeah.